The introduction of internment camps known as quarantine is being rolled out across nations, and in this era, and in keeping with the global theatre of operations, we know they're called quarantine camps. Maybe not in lockstep exactly with each other, since different cultures and nations will react dependent on historical and cultural context. But the state's dystopian pre-planned reactions know it will get to a point when more and more people will realise the state has stepped way over the line and arrived at the threshold of revolution. And this is inevitable, and so quarantine camps will be used to quell the people after lockdowns fail. But that failure has been planned and contributed greatly already towards conditioning and compliance of the masses. I cannot recall who said the following, but it is a question we should be asking ourselves now more than ever. And that question is, ask whether your idea of heaven and harmony should be waiting for you in your graves, or whether it should be ours here and now on this earth. The power to control a population is based in the educated ignorance of its people. Compliance is easy if the people have no idea of the power they hold over the state. And of course, the state make billion-dollar efforts to make sure you never get to know the truth. And the truth is, we, the people, are at the threshold of a game so dire and dangerous. Unless we shed our ignorance, unless we wake up to the fact that we have always had the power over governments by the laws of the land. In the clip to follow, listen very carefully to a man and the very informative narrator on how easy it is using very basic questions to stop these state-owned bullies in their tracks. If you want your version of a new world, one free of the dictates of draconian governments, we must reset ourselves in mind, body and spirit back to the laws of all lands. Asking, would you agree I'm a man? Simple questions such as that sets up the bully to admit. And no man-made law has an effect on what you are entitled to do under common law, under your inalienable rights to go about your life harming nothing. And as I repeatedly stated in many previous episodes of the Observation Deck, both here and on YouTube, everything, and I do mean everything, is contract, and you have the right not to contract with any state-sponsored bully. I know it takes courage. I know it may make some of you very nervous, but understand this is just your indoctrinated preconditioning kicking in. It is the reaction the state has implanted over years of force and subtle compliance, but none of that makes it lawful to comply. I just want to thank the original uploader from the Common Law group on Telegram, which I will leave a link in the description below so you can communicate, learn and take back what was stolen. Because be under no illusion, if you do not, they will steal all our futures and continue to erode what is left of our common laws of the land. So let's just take a look at the clip before I give you my summation.
Common law sits above the government. The government is a corporation, and as such cannot tell any living man or living woman what to do. Any acts, statutes or regulations that come out of government are only possible through contract law. Contract law requires the consent of both parties. You may have heard MPs say that they're governing by consent. This is because they require our consent. Our ancestors fought and died for this right and our freedom. The first visit was not recorded, and the manager had no clear understanding of how common law protected his rights, but he carried out his due diligence and did not want to commit to wearing a mask. In this video, it's the second attempt at extorting money from the takeaway. You will see that the manager has tried to explain that he is exempt, but the police officer has not accepted his reason.
Young man, you need to wear a mask. I've got asthma. Yeah, I can't breathe in one. You can breathe in one, because you can breathe if you've got asthma. You need an exemption certificate, or we'll be closing your premises, okay? I can't make one about it. So, don't say you haven't been warned. This will be reported to the council, alright?
Well, I just had to interject here for a couple of reasons. First, as you saw, the police officer has no right to assess anyone's ability to wear a mask. He's not qualified and he's full of poo. Second, you do not need any type of certificate to prove anything to a policy enforcer. He's just making stuff up as he goes. And third, if it was an enforceable criminal offence, why is he stating he report this to the council? Can he not just arrest him? Of course he can't. He has no authority, and by saying he will report him to the council is more like a traffic warden's threat, not one made by a real constable who took an oath to keep the peace. This guy in a uniform is just a revenue collector, nothing more. Let's just continue.
I need to stop the video here, as what happens next is very important. Although the manager was only just starting to learn common law, he knew enough to not get himself trapped.
Do you understand?
Do you understand? Do you understand is not common English. It's actually legalese, and it's legalese for do you agree to stand under my authority?
I don't understand, I don't understand under you, okay?
You don't understand? Right.
I don't understand under you.
Right. Okay, well, you've been warned.
The manager has made it clear that he does not consent, and the police officer has no other alternative but to leave. In this next video, which is the third extortion attempt, the attendee was a licensing officer from the council, again another authority. But by this time, the manager was more confident in his rights, as you can see.
I put my hand on telling you. I just want to have a chat, that's all. It's nothing. What is your reason for not wearing a face mask?
I'd like to answer this question.
Yes, you are.
Under what legislation?
The code of break. What? I'm asking a simple question.
Under what legislation?
Why aren't you? Can I ask? Why aren't you wearing a mask? That's all I'm asking you.
I'm not obliged to.
Yes, you are.
Under what legislation?
Under the code of regulations, health and safety.
Okay, what does the legislation say?
Would you like to answer the question, yes or no?
You answer the question, my context.
I'm asking you a simple question.
Okay. Am I, okay, no, what do I look to you? Am I a man?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
How would you like to address me? Sorry,
am I a man?
My perception is that you are.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you give me your evidence that legislation, Coronavirus Act, applies to a man?
How would you like to?
Can you give me an evidence?
You may notice that the licensing officer continually asks him, how would you like me to address you? In other words, give me your details so I can send you a fine.
How would you like to address you?
Can you give me an evidence? Like your legislation that you rely on applying to a man.
Right. Can you answer my question? How would you like me to address you?
You haven't answered my question. You haven't fucking answered my question.
Right, I'm trying to have a polite conversation with you.
Give me an evidence that your legislation applies to a man.
I'm not going anywhere. Right, I'm just asking. I want to turn my camera off.
There's a sign on that door. Have you read it, sir?
Have you read it?
Listen. Have you read the sign, sir?
No, I have not.
Okay, can you please read it?
No, trespass notice. I'm not trespassing. Am I trespassing?
Well, immediately you are.
I've just come in and asked you if you're open.
No, you're trying to intimidate me. Sorry, sir. You're trying to intimidate me.
Right, okay, we'll leave it there. I'll pass on, before you go, sir, I will be passing this conversation on to the council, okay? I've tried to be fair, I've tried to be polite, you won't even engage with me.
No comments.
Okay, fair enough.
This next video, which is the fourth visit, the harassment has gone up a level. The attempted extorters are now a sergeant and a PC. The manager has his notice of non-consent printed out, which makes it clear to the officers that he does not wish to contract with them.
Any reply you want to make?
I hand you a notice. Here. You could just go forward. Can I have your name, please?
Certainly, yeah. Do you want me to write it down,
Please, yeah. And your name, sir, please.
Come here, ignore that, I got that.
Can you have read through this, brother? Make sure you understand the conference, please.
I'll take it with me. Obviously, I'm recording it as well, so I'll take it with it. We'll digest it. But what I would suggest is...
one copy to you, and if you take that with you, I'll pass you one copy.
Okay, no problem. But as I said, you'll be summoned, with regard to that breach. Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The officers threatening him with summoning him to court, but they have left again without taking any details. Without his details, they cannot fine him, and they cannot summon him. Again, there is no consent. The 5th visit is a voice recording only. However, it's the same sergeant as the 4th visit, and the sergeant is stating that on licensed premises, he has authority over our manager. That is not the case. The takeaway, for a start, doesn't have nor require a license, and even if it did have a license, you'd have to abide by the terms of that license. It doesn't mean that all other acts, statutes and rights go out the window because you have a license to fish or serve alcohol. Again, the officer is unable to gain authority over our manager and leaves with empty threats but no details.
I don't wish to contract with you. I don't wish to contract with you. Keep on I don't wish to contract with you. As I mentioned before, statutory rule is not a law without my consent, and I don't consent.
Okay, you'll be getting fines. Unfortunately, that doesn't work when you operate on licensed premises. You have to consent, otherwise you can't trade.
I don't consent. I don't consent. You are trespassing, by the way. Please leave. Please leave now. Please leave now. You are trespassing.
On a licensed premises, you have to permit.
Please leave this land. You are trespassing, please.
No, we're not.
Please, you are trespassing.
So licensed premises, it has to be
This is private land.
We should
Please leave. You are trespassing. There is a notice at the door. Please read it and understand it.
Our 6th and final visit follows. As you will see, the frustration is evident. To quote Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Right, you're still serving without wearing a face mask. I'm going to record you again. You do not have to say anything. You may have any defence. Do not mention any question. Mention now something which you can later on in court. Anything you do say may be given.
I do not consent.
You don't have to consent.
Well, I haven't threatened my right, but I haven't given you my right. Have I?
You haven't given me your
This is my right not to consent. I haven't handed my rights to you.
You don't need to handle your rights. It's an offence not to wear face coverings.
It's the law of the land that
So there's a couple of errors that these officers have made at this point. Firstly, the first officer said that our manager does not have to consent. This is not the case. Consent is required. Secondly, I don't know if you picked up on what the second officer said when he said it's the law of the land. This isn't true. Common law is the true law. That is the law of the land. Anything that comes out of government, statutes, acts, anything that's passed through Parliament is actually Admiralty maritime law. It's the law of the sea. It's the foreign law.
What's law?
There's a COVID-19 regulations.
Pardon?
The COVID-19 regulations quite expensive.
What law are you relying on? What law are you using?
I've just told you.
What law?
I've just told you.
Are you talking about coronavirus?
Your friends were recording it, so I'll play it back and it'll tell you what law.
Can you please identify yourself, please?
Yeah, police officer 132 from Shulman office.
Can I have your name, please?
132 Akins.
Can you write it down?
768 Brown.
You're racking up quite a bill. You double every time we give you one of these.
I do not consent.
Up to a maximum of
I do not consent. I don't wish to contract with you.
I'm happy for you.
I don't wish to contract with you. I don't wish to contract with you.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
You are trespassing, mate.
No, we're not.
You are trespassing.
No, we're not.
You are trespassing. Please leave.
Your license
Please leave. You
How
are
can we
trespassing.
trespass
You are
with police
trespassing.
officers?
You are trespassing.
Prison.
If you are trespassing, please leave.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, no, we'll see you in court.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
So again, these police officers have left without details, without consent, and without being able to issue a fine. It is worth pointing out here that these two members of the police force are actually officers. There is a significant difference between an officer and a constable. A constable takes an oath to keep the peace, and the officer doesn't take an oath, as they are merely revenue collectors, pretty much the same as a traffic warden. They are only there to contribute to the millions in profit that the privately owned corporate police force makes. Our takeaway manager has made it clear that he does not wish to contract with these officers. At what point does this become bullying, harassment, and criminal coercion? If someone says no to you, do you then go back again and again to try and force them to contract with you? What is important to remember here is that we do not wish to cause anybody any harm. We have carried out our research and we are exercising our unalienable rights to earn a living. We have the right to do this without threat or financial penalty. If you wish to learn more about your rights under common law, please join our Telegram group. I'll put the link in the description. There you can find out more about the common law court, and we, as a community of woke living souls, can help and support each other.